MacVoices is supported by Text Expander by Smile. Find out just how powerful a few keystrokes can be at textexpander.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we continue down the road to Macstock. We're having a lot of fun talking to the speakers, the presenters, some of the attendees, some other folks that are going to make Macstock even more special this year. And we say that every year, but each year it really is true. This time, we get back together with an old friend and a former Macstock speaker who will be speaking again, Mr. Mike Schmitz. Mike, welcome. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, Chuck. Hey, I should mention at the beginning here, by the way, that it's your fault that I am a Macstock speaker because last time we recorded, I was not going to submit since the theme was create. Last year it was productivity. I figured it's right in my wheelhouse, so I got to submit. But this year I was like, I'm going to let somebody else do it. And you told me you better submit, so I did.
Gee, I didn't know I had that much authority. That's good.
You do.
That's good. Well, I'm delighted to have you back because I always enjoy your presentations. They always make me think. And Mike Potter made us all think a little bit this year about taking our topic or a preferred topic and maybe angling it a little bit different or approaching it from a different angle. And so that too I like because it forced me to look at mine a little bit differently. What did he force you to look at differently?
Well, this is interesting because I mentioned, I wasn't really going to submit because I think Allison, in the episode that you recorded with Allison, you both kind of mentioned this, that you didn't think that you were creative. And I've struggled with that my entire life. I've never really viewed myself as creative. By the way, I am a musician, so maybe I should be defaulting to thinking I am creative. But one of the things that I really like to do is I like to write songs. But I have a specific memory where I was trying to write a song, and every time that I would come up with something, I would then hear, the chord progression that I thought I came up with, or the melody line. I'd hear it in another song, and I'd be like, "Dang it, I just can't create anything because this is all just like ripped off from somebody else." And it was reading a specific book by Austin Kleon, Steal Like an Artist, that kind of gave me the freedom to say what I'm creating, that is actually a creative endeavor. And his point is that when you create something, you basically have all of these dots that you've collected and you just connect them in a way that's never been done before. But there's nothing truly that's like, you got hit in the brain with a flash of lightning and all of a sudden you've got this great new idea. Like, you are the sum of the parts or the pieces that you've collected. So coming back to my topic, I guess, that is the thing that got me to view myself as potentially being creative. And again, I never really considered myself creative in that sense. Like I'm a writer, for example, but I ended up writing a book. And that is the thing that got me into the productivity space. That's also the thing that a lot of people want to do. I found an article, I think it was in the New York Times, that said 81% of Americans believe they have a book in them and that they should write it. But when you do the math, it's like 0.4% that do write the book and publish it every year. So what holds so many people back? I think it's the same thing that held you back, that maybe held Allison back, that definitely held me back, was the fact that, like, what do I have to contribute? I'm not creative. So really what I want to do with my talk is share how Ulysses, which in my opinion is the best writing app out there, because it gives you a simple user interface that allows you to get your words out of your head onto the page. And then once you have them there, very easily package them, repurpose them, put them wherever they're going to be, whether that is actually a book. You can directly export an EPUB right from Ulysses, or you can publish straight to the web. I mean, there's a lot of different places that this stuff can end up. And Ulysses is a great tool for that. So really what I want to do is I want to eliminate the friction or the resistance as much as possible for those people who do believe that they have something in them that they're supposed to write, but haven't been able to do it yet.
So you're going to be a creator facilitator,
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. And we've said so many times here during the Road to Macstock, we don't want you to do the presentation here or give away too much, but give an idea of for people so they have an idea of what they're going to hear. So with that, let me ask you this. Well, first of all, I did want to ask you, what instrument do you play?
I actually have played violin since I was 5, but lately, mainly it's been guitar. I play electric guitar primarily and sing on the worship team at my church. So occasionally I'll play violin there as well, but guitar is what I play most of the time. It's just more enjoyable for me. I like all the effects and things. It's kind of like a big sandbox to play in.
So you're a shredder, in other words.
I don't know if I'd go that far.
Yeah, I'm trying to visualize that, and it's just not working. Okay, so help me a little bit and help folks out there, because one thing I think we can safely say is that everybody out there has to write something on their Macs, on their iPads, on their iPhones. You have so many options, some that come with the Mac, text edit, pages. Of course, you have, Microsoft Word, and then you have a million other text processors, word processors, note programs. I could go on for an hour. So what is it that makes Ulysses uniquely suited or best suited to something like you're talking about to write a book?
Well, you mentioned Microsoft Word, Apple Pages, stuff like that. Those word processors, that's pretty much the worst thing you can use when you do have a goal of like a long-term or long-form writing project, because I can guarantee you what's going to happen is you're going to get some words on that page, and then you're going to start playing with all of the options, and you're going to try to style it. You're going to waste hours trying to get it to look just the way you want it. And that's kind of a placebo for doing the hard work, which is showing up and writing every day, right? So Ulysses is a plain text editor, which makes it different than those two programs specifically. But there's a ton of plain text editors out there as well. So I think the thing that kind of sets Ulysses apart is because it's plain text, it's very easy to just get your words out of your head and onto the page. So it reduces as much as possible the resistance from sitting down to write every day. And that is still a beast that people have to conquer. I mean, I went through that myself. When I started writing my book, I was trying to find time to write, and the only thing I could find was, even though I'm not a morning person, getting up at 5 a.m. every day so I could write for an hour before I went into the office. But I did that for a period of time, and I noticed that the more that I did it, the easier it got. So at that point, there's a couple things that are at play there. Number one, you've got to create the habit of showing up every day to do the writing. And then number two, this is where Ulysses comes in, is picking the right tool reduces the friction and the resistance from getting the words onto the page. And then ultimately, once you have them down, you want to be able to send them to the final destination. Ulysses makes that really easy as well. When I started writing my book, Ulysses in its current form was not around. So I invested in Scrivener, which is a great program, but it is the exact opposite of Ulysses because it is so complicated and difficult to learn. They have like a built-in tutorial that took me, I think, 3 hours to go through before I actually could start writing. And Ulysses just makes it super easy. You just open it up. There's a cursor on a blank screen, and you can just start typing. And then afterwards, you've got all your sheets. It's easy to organize them, rearrange them, put them together in the right order. Hit the button. You've got your ebook, or you've got your blog post published to the web. And I guess like the thing that holds a lot of people back is choosing the wrong tool. There's also the approach, and I'm going to hopefully talk a little bit about that in the deep dive. But really, there's only so much you can help people with that. Ultimately, they have to be the ones to show up every day, and they have to be the ones to have the ideas that they're going to get in the habit of putting down. But I want to focus on, in my talk, like the people who are almost there, but because they're not using the right tool, or they have the tool, but they don't know how to use it correctly, like that's the thing that's stopping them. If we can remove that impediment, then maybe that's the thing that allows their creative work to see the light of day.
So you make writing a book sound almost workmanlike. That you got up for an hour early to write every day, and that you really have to show up and write. That sounds like a lot of work, which it obviously is. Um, I mean, is that the way that folks should look at if they decide to try to write a book, that this is work or this is going to be work? It's not going to be fun or just something you do when the spirit moves you?
Yeah, well, I think it's The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. There's a quote in there where someone asks him, "When do you write?" And he says, "I write only when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it shows up every morning at 9 o'clock sharp." Like that's the thing that a lot of people are held back by, I think. And maybe this is a little bit off of the technical topic, but I think it's really important. If you wait till you feel like it, you're never going to feel like it. It's easier to act your way into a better way of feeling than to feel your way into a better way of acting, if that makes any sense. So show up every day, create the habit, and every time that you do it, the resistance gets a little bit weaker. And the other piece to this regarding like you said, the spirit moves you. I guess people might call that, another way to say that it would be passion. I'm just not passionate about it. It's not something I enjoy doing, whatever. And this is maybe completely off topic, but in my course, I talk about the word passion because the root for that word passion is actually pati, which is the Latin word for to suffer. So passion really isn't, follow your passion isn't doing what you like to do. It's having something that you believe so strongly in that it hurts you to keep it inside. And you're willing to go through some things, and you're willing to be uncomfortable, like a not morning person getting up at 5 a.m. For 8 months in a row, which, by the way, that's another separate side topic, but like we're terrible at estimating how much we can get done in the long term and also the short term. We overestimate what we can get done in the short term. We underestimate what we can get done in the long term. So a lot of people like me, they think probably it's going to take me 5 years maybe to write this book. But the truth is, once I showed up, even for just an hour a day for 8 months, by the end of that, I had my finished product. And so I think that there's nothing wrong with taking a workman's approach to something creative. That kind of gets back to the original thing I said, where I didn't really view myself as creative because I didn't have that inspiration where all of a sudden I saw the thing. And maybe some people are like that, but that belief is it's a limiting belief in my opinion, at least in my experience, because it held me back for a long time. And I'm betting that there are a good number of other people who are just like me, who maybe they haven't had someone tell them, it's okay to treat this like a job, and just show up every day. And like I said, with Steal Like an Artist, connect the dots, and whatever comes from connecting those dots, that is completely okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It is the logical output. It's almost like a formula because you've collected dots in a certain way and now you're just connecting them. And maybe, yeah, you could connect them a different way, but honestly, I don't know. The process is kind of where the joy for me comes from now. And now it's a challenge because I just try to collect more dots and see what happens. It's like throwing stuff against the wall. Every once in a while you see something, you're like, hey, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of this borders on some of your productivity topics that you do have to just do it. I mean,
Yep.
I think I'm stealing somebody's tagline, but you've got to do it. You can't wait until it feels good. It's so easy to have other things to do or other priorities or things that are definitely more interesting. And that's, you got to find ways to either satisfy those things or get them out of your life to move forward. I know there are things that I'm terrible at. Well, no, I'm terrible at them, and I don't want to do them. And inevitably, I will sit and procrastinate over those. And while I'm procrastinating over those, I'm killing my productivity for other things, which makes no sense to anyone but probably me. But that's the way it happens. So you just have to focus and push through and try to get it done.
Yeah, well, there's two parts to productivity, right? There's efficiency, which is doing things right, and then there's effectiveness, which is doing the right things. And we were kind of talking a little bit before we hit record that there's so much stuff in the productivity space that is like 3 simple life hacks to save you an hour every day. And that may be great. Maybe you need an extra hour, and that would give you enough breathing room to really feel like you have the control, which is really what you're after. But so many people just try to become more efficient and never ask the question, should I be doing these things in the first place? Right? Peter Drucker, I think, is the one, is like, nothing is so useless as to do efficiently that which should not be done at all. So my approach is kind of the exact opposite, which maybe is bad marketing, since everything, like I said, in the productivity space is, this is how the life hacks and the tips and the tricks and stuff like that. I really believe that when you know what you're supposed to do, the right tool can make you more efficient, but to a certain degree, it almost doesn't matter. If you could just be effective with everything that you're doing and you had to use paper, pencil for all of it, you'd probably be more productive than being really, really efficient with all the technology, because it's going to give you all of the doorways to the distractions and all the other things that are going to get you off of what should be the main thing. So there's a balance there too, though, which is why I want to talk about Ulysses during my talk, because we do want to look for those things, but you can waste a lot of time trying out new tools and figuring out what's the right thing to use. I've used enough of the tools that I really do believe that Ulysses is the best tool for people who do have writing projects that they want to complete, but they haven't been able to. And so if I can save you a whole bunch of research and just show you why this is going to be the right tool for you, and then also how to use it more efficiently, that's kind of the goal.
Smile and Text Expander are supporting this edition of MacVoices. When you get a new Mac, what are the first apps you install? Which ones do you feel are the most important, the most used? The ones that make your Mac feel like your Mac and not someone else's that you've borrowed. Text Expander by Smile is at the top of my list. Why? Because saving time is important to me. Because being accurate is important to me. Because I prefer to have my Mac work for me. And Text Expander does all of those things. With Text Expander, a few characters or a short phrase expand into text and code that I use frequently. Something simple, like my full name, my address, my phone number, today's date, a few characters for each of those, and they appear, fully typed out, exactly the way I wanted them. Or something complex, like the code necessary for certain parts of publishing MacVoices. Or an introductory email to a new team member at work outlining the resources available to them. Or a request for an interview. The list goes on and on. The biggest challenge is recognizing that you type certain things over and over, and Text Expander can help you with that by watching what you type and suggesting new snippets to help you be more efficient. For those of you with multiple Macs, you can sync your snippets across so that everything is available on every machine. And for those of you with iOS devices, there's a version of Text Expander for iPhone and iPad that takes advantage of all those snippets you've already created. Text Expander requires so little and gives back so much. Find out just how much by visiting textexpander.com and download a free trial. You'll be text expanding in no time at all. That's Text Expander from Smile at textexpander.com. Thanks to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. I keep saying this to every one of our speakers. I'm really looking forward to hearing about this because I think that we all have different projects we'd like to undertake or you think about undertaking. And if somebody like you can come along and remove some of those barriers, I mean, you're never going to be able to get me up at 5 o'clock. That's got to be something that I decide to do. But
Right.
At least you can have waiting on my computer or my iPad or whatever, the tool that will help me accomplish what it is once I do get up. And that's one less thing I have to do to figure out how to get the ultimate project done. Is I've got somebody credible who's told me, here's a tool, here's how you use it. Now it's up to you to actually do it.
And here's somebody who's actually done what you want to do using the tool, right? Because it's one thing to say, this is the best tool, trust me, because I wasted all my time trying everything. But then if they don't have the fruit, like if they haven't done the thing that they're trying to help you do, they lose a little bit of credibility in my mind. But it's not also it's not just for people who want to write a book. I mean, that's kind of where it started for me, because it was a long form writing project and you could export to EPUB. But there's so much you can use Ulysses for. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, that people write all the time for all of these different things. It's not just for people who have a profession of writing. When I am going to record a podcast, I have to create an outline. When I'm recording videos for like Screencasts Online or the courses that I create, like I write out the scripts. I'm in this application every single day, and you can use it for a lot of different things. One of the things that makes it work, by the way, for me, is the incredible Markdown support. You can even, using Ulysses and Markdown, create presentations. I'm kicking around the idea of doing that for mine, but I'm not sure how much that's going to limit me when I'm on stage. So I'm a little bit hesitant to promise that. But I thought, man, that would be a great way to dog food my message. Like, you can use Ulysses for anything. Look, I'm doing the presentation from Markdown and Ulysses.
Hey, this is really interesting, I think. And you're right. Look, we all do it. It's clickbait to some degree, but the 5 best word processing apps, or the 5 best note apps, or the 5 best video editing apps, or whatever. And you got to go click through to see, am I using one of those? Or if I'm in the market, well, which one should I use? And usually each app gets about a paragraph. And I don't mean, a multi-sentence paragraph, but a 2 or 3 sentence paragraph. And, it's strong in this area, or it's weak in this area. And what you end up with is not a lot more than just a list of apps that you might look at, because you none of them check all the boxes. And I understand that that's the case, but you really need something a little more in depth. And so that's why I'm looking forward to this, like you said, from somebody who's actually used it. I'm always interested if somebody will tell me what they're using, but then the next question is why. What is it about that app that you decided on that one versus this one over here? And sometimes they're really good answers, and sometimes they just say, well, I just kind of started with this. Well, then how do I know that this is the best app for me? But you're going to show how it actually works.
Yeah, well, a lot of those articles that you mentioned, I've written those. I write those things for the Suite setup.
Sorry, Mike.
But
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. In my opinion, I wrote them because I got annoyed with the ones that I was seeing. Because I think a lot of people go on their spirit quest to find the perfect app for them because they're trying to check all the boxes. And you will never check all the boxes. And I think that there's an approach you can take when evaluating the different tools that are available that can save you a lot of time. If you go into it thinking, I'm going to find the thing that's going to check all the boxes, you'll continually be disappointed, and you'll be on an eternal search for the holy grail of, the to-do list app or writing app or whatever sort of app you're trying to find that doesn't exist. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a best tool for you. You just have to recognize what are the benefits and then what are the costs that are associated with these things. And I guess I've been in the productivity space long enough and looked at a lot of these different apps that I can identify that stuff fairly quickly. So I wrote for the Suite setup, the best pro writing app, and we picked Ulysses, and I actually helped them with their Learn Ulysses course. So all the screencasts for that, I did those. And the article, though, which is just on the site, is something like 5,000 words. And I think it kind of articulates in a lot longer form than, the 20-minute podcast, but it kind of articulates why Ulysses is the right tool for this. If you understand kind of the different options that are available, and you understand kind of the thought process, like the problems that they're trying to solve for the people that these apps are built for, that changes the perspective, as opposed to, is this going to work for me? And Ulysses is just, the design behind it is incredible in my opinion. Everything is just so well thought out, and I can't even tell you like how many times I was like, oh, I wonder if it can do this. Oh my gosh, it can do that. I don't even have to look for it because it's right there in front of you. It's just really well considered. And not every app is like that, obviously. And you can tell when they do implement a certain feature one way that a lot of times you can see, well, maybe they could have done it this other way too. And you can find another app that can do it that other way if you prefer that, but for the most part, you get a feel near the beginning if you approach it the right way of like who this is for and what problems it's trying to solve. And that can save you a lot of time on your quest.
Mike, we got to get you back here more often. It's always a fascinating discussion, and I feel like I always learn so much, even when we're talking around a topic like we are here. And so, I'm going to put it on the calendar. We got to get you back more.
All right.
But we need to do some housekeeping things here first. Macstock 2019 is where folks go to sign up for Macstock. Your speaker code is?
My speaker code is Focused, which is the name of the podcast that David Sparks and I do, which is a totally different approach to productivity. If you're sick of the life hacks and the tips and the tricks, you might like Focused. Our subtitle is Life is More Than Cranking Widgets.
Well, that's well said. So yours is Focused. Mine is MacVoices. I don't care whose you use Mike's, but please go to macstock2019.com, sign up, join Mike, join me, join everybody that we've talked to here on MacVoices. We're going to have a great time. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to have a lot of fun. You're going to meet some amazing people. I guarantee you those three things will happen. I don't know what else will happen, but those three will definitely happen.
Yeah, and I have to just throw this out there because I heard you mention this with Allison. You basically put out the call to just show up because you don't know who you're going to meet. I am the person who just showed up. I was ready. I knew nobody in the Mac community, but I was ready to buy a ticket and go to Mac World the year that it went on hiatus. And I'm in the Midwest. Macstock was kind of started as a response to that by people who missed Macworld and wanted to get together. And I'm like, that's a 3-hour drive from where I am. I'm going to just go down there and, see what happens. And I ended up sitting next to Don McAllister, and I ended up eating lunch with Dave Ginsburg and met a whole bunch of people. That first year when it was really small, it must have been like 50, 60 people, but that was my first experience in the Mac community, but I have been back every year since then. I think I've actually presented every year since then. And it was just showing up at Macstock, which is ultimately what got me introduced to you and me being here and opened up a lot of the doors to a lot of things that I do now. So I really can't speak highly enough of the community. I had heard that the Mac community or the Apple community was a welcoming bunch. And so I kind of had high expectations going down, but I was completely blown away. It was way beyond anything that I could have imagined.
That delights me to hear for lots of reasons, not just the fact that you and I ended up meeting each other and became friends, but also that it validates. My friend Mike Horton, every super meet that he ever promoted here on MacVoices, or you go and hear him, he makes the point that the person sitting next to you could change your life. That's why you need to come to these things. So Mike, if you're watching, I'm stealing that from you, but it really is true. And right here's a living, breathing example of how someone whose life got changed just by showing up for one weekend, kind of maybe not on a whim, but just taking a flyer on it, and here we are. So
Yep.
That's really cool. That's really cool. The other piece of housekeeping I wanted to make sure we did is to talk a little bit about your ready to be launched or has launched, depending on when you launch and when this gets released, the faith-based productivity.
Yeah, so faith-based productivity has been a labor of love for a long time. It's kind of the culmination of all of the things that I've done. I mentioned the book is the thing that kind of got me into the productivity space. The last couple of years I've been working with a company doing productivity training, learning a lot, That's kind of the thing that got me into screencasting and also into podcasting. And faith-based productivity is a culmination of all of that stuff that I've discovered from the productivity world, lined up with all of the biblical principles that I've recognized from my Christian faith. I also have a Bible college degree. So it's kind of the mirroring of these two things, and really not through the lens of how do you become more efficient, but how do you be more effective? The tagline is connect to your calling, discover your destiny, live the life that you were created for. I really believe that a lot of people have limiting beliefs about what they're capable of. And so I can't tell people like, this is what you were made to do. But I have found that if you ask the right questions, then the answers become clear. So I kind of walk people down that path and help them ask the right questions so that they can discover those things for themselves and try some things and figure out what works. Because that's the thing that's gotten me to where I am today. I've kind of like completely reinvented my career in the last couple of years, but it's not gone anything like I thought it would. I was the guy who was, terrified of public speaking, complete introvert, by the way. But when you figure out the things that really have meaning and significance to you, like it brings life to you. Even as an introvert, getting up on a stage in front of people at Macstock and teaching them how they can accomplish their goals of writing a book, for example, that's really, really exciting to me. And so, I've kind of gone through a lot of this stuff myself, and I want to help people kind of sort this out for themselves and hopefully, save them some time, get them connected to the thing that really drives them, figure out their passion, not just the thing that you like to do, but what's burning inside of you. Like what's your yes? What's your why behind all of the productivity things?
Yeah, we got to get you back. So it's a date. So once it's fully launched and everything's, all the bugs are ironed out, which they always, they're always bugs. Please come back and tell us a little more. I know the last time you were here, we talked a bit about it, but I'd love to hear it, now that it's this much farther down the line and it'll be out and running and, everything you're doing with it. But I think that's very cool. And, the website, of course, is?
The website is faithbasedproductivity.com. And if you were to go there now, I do have a pre-order special. So there is like a discount on the premium version of the course. I'll throw that out there to people who are watching this still. By the time I come back, when it's actually launched, that'll probably be gone. But for people who this does sound interesting and they want to save some money, that's available until the launch date, which I'm not sure if I should mention here because it might change, but
no, we'll just let
it's
it
coming up.
Yeah, let it be a surprise. And it already may have launched by the time we get this out, depending on, again, when you decide that you're ready to go. But
Sure.
One way or the other, please go check that out. And Mike, we want to get you back here to talk a lot more about it. It's always a fascinating discussion.
All right, will do.
So they can find you through the Faith-Based Productivity website?
That's the site for the course. My site is MikeSchmitz.me, and I'm trying to blog there more often, but at the very least, it's got links to all of my active projects. So even if the faith-based productivity thing is not for you, there's links to my podcast, which I mentioned, Focused with David Sparks, different type of productivity podcasts. I've also got Bookworm I do with Joe Buelig, where we deconstruct a self-help productivity type book every couple of weeks. I do some screencasts for Screencasts Online, and I do some writing for the Suite Setup. So links to all that stuff at MikeSchmitz.me.
Perfect. Mike, it's great to see you. I'm looking forward to seeing you again at Macstock in July. We're going to have a lot of fun. Is your wife coming again this year?
She is. Yep.
Good. Okay. Good. I'll try to sneak up on her again. As I recall, we had a good time with her last year. Surprised her a little bit, so we'll try to do it again.
I'm not responsible for any bodily harm that happens if you try to sneak up on her, though.
Yeah, no. Well, as I recall, last year she seemed a little surprised, and it's like I think her exact words were, my husband is standing right there. And my response was, of course, I would not do that if your husband were not standing right there. So yeah, there were a lot of laughs over that. Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We really do want to see you in Woodstock, Illinois for Macstock at the end of July. So please, Macstock 2019, use Mike's code of FOCUSED, save a little money, and get there. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.